Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and we're back out here in the garage for another garage gun talk. And yes, I turned on my nicer vlogging camera today as compared to just using my camera phone. And I wanted to do a commentary on something that I think many of the commentary slash legal channels were talking about last week. And I think it was getting a lot of traction. But I think I have a more nuanced approach to it. The one thing that I've noticed being involved in firearms content creation, and by the way, if you just found my channel, this is the Texas Gun Vault 2. It's my behind the scenes channel. This is not the place where I do all of my formal gun reviews and product reviews and the like. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, there's a link in the description below. But this is a channel where I simply just turn on my camera and talk. I don't have any script. I'm just saying whatever comes to mind, and I'm just running my mouth. So some people like this, some people don't. So I may misspeak in this or say something stupid or silly, but I try to catch myself. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today was all of the news last week regarding the ATF being what some people are saying dismantled by Kash Patel, who is also the FBI director, but now is also the acting ATF director. And I noticed that a lot of the clickbaity content creators, and if you watch those, it's totally fine. I'm not saying they're bad people. They're just trying to drive views to their channel. And I know that most people that consume firearms content today don't watch gun videos. They watch gun commentary news videos. And you can see that from all the explosion of firearms legal channels that just do clickbaity thumbnails and so forth. And you guys know the one that drives me absolutely bonkers. I will not say his name, but if you look at all of his thumbnails every single day, it's breaking news, groundbreaking, the Second Amendment changed forever. And you watch the video and like, nothing's happened, right? But they all do it, and I understand. And in fact, I even get stuff from YouTube saying, here's how to improve engagement with your thumbnails, what to say, what not to say. Here's what other... I'm like, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the ATF. I guess some of the agents are being pulled, like 1,000 agents from the ATF, which I want to say there's like only 5,000 agents in the ATF total. But that includes everybody, like everything from the director to all the administrators, to the people that are in HR, to the people that process NFA forms, all the way down to the special agents and investigators and people that answer the phones, okay? They're not really a huge organization, but I know that they're in the past and still are kind of a bane of, law-abiding citizens and gun owners' lives, right? They always find some way, and they're always trying to be used as some type of political pawn to implement, especially anti-gun things, if there's a anti-gun president in the White House. And a lot of people are looking at this and celebrating this, and I totally understand why. And I think something that a lot of people are overlooking on those other channels is while they're pulling people away from the ATF and moving them possibly into the FBI or into immigration services or whatever, that it's not necessarily going to change anything when it comes to firearms enforcement. I think the best thing that they're doing is removing the special agents from the ATF, moving them to the FBI, but keeping all of the people that do all the record keeping and the bookkeeping and the licenses and stuff. So they're not going to pull people away from processing NFA forms. They're not going to pull people away from the people that go and do maybe like the FFL inspections or do the FFL interviews for people that are applying for that kind of stuff. It's more paperwork and bookkeeping stuff. So I think that's a very legitimate role of the ATF. But when it comes to their legal stuff where they come up with these arbitrary rules, whether it be about pistol braces, FRTs, bump stocks, you name it. And of course, they can change their opinion on a whim. I think it is good that we pull that power away and pull those lawyers and legal people and agents away from there because they were just, once again, being used as political pawns. And I think they were always kind of in a, for a lack of a better term, a pissing match with other related investigative services, because it's always silly when you hear like, oh my gosh, there was some type of event whatever that be. And you have the FBI, the ATF, the sheriff, I mean, all these different agencies coming together. It's like, why don't we just have one agency do it, like the FBI? So for me, it makes complete sense to just have one agency. But a lot of people are celebrating this and going, wow, the ATF is being eliminated. And no, it's not being eliminated. And all of the issues that I think people still will have or would have had with the ATF, they're just going to have now with the FBI. That's what's going to happen. And actually, I think for the future, it's going to streamline the process for hurting gun rights. So let me explain. Right now, we have this weird bifurcated system where the FBI handles things like the NICS system, the background check system. You have the ATF that handles things like licensing and processing of forms. And, you know, they're the ones that sometimes get a little bit heavy-handed in the past when it came to Waco, Ruby Ridge. You guys know all those events. And of course, you hear about the pettiness sometimes of the agencies' actions when, I don't know, they go after, for example, they completely ignore like inner city gun crime where gangs have, Glock switches. They don't seem to care about that, but then they'll get somebody that, I don't know, has a pistol brace attached to a pistol that they said previously was legal. Now they're like, oh, we just don't like that. And you find out they got arrested and charged with, all that kind of stuff. So they just become, petty because they got nothing else to do. But let me ask you, while all of these other commenters and legal scholars are saying, oh my gosh, it's great for gun owners, but all they're going to do is centralize all of that into the FBI. So we haven't eliminated things like the NFA. We haven't eliminated things like the 68 Gun Control Act. And temporarily, while we have Donald Trump in the White House, they might do different enforcement procedures where they say, hey, don't prosecute this, don't investigate this, don't go after this, instead focus on this. But those laws and regulations are still going to be on the books. And when the personnel in the White House changes, now you have a more consolidated agency that not only handles all of the FBI's roles like the NICS check and so forth, but soon they're going to be enforcing those same laws and regulations. And the FBI is a much more streamlined and, it's a bigger agency than the ATF was. So when it comes to infringing upon the rights of what are now law-abiding gun owners is going to be streamlined in that in the future, let's just say you had a very anti-gun administration. I'll just say a Kamala Harris or whatever, okay? Now you would have one central agency that's more funded, better trained, and has everything in-house to go after the common citizen. I mean, just, people used to joke that, everybody has like an FBI, or the FBI has a file on you. Well, the ATF didn't have a file on you. No one thought that they had enough wherewithal to do that type of stuff. But we all know the FBI does. They have the ability to track everything and consolidate that. They have access to knowing where you're at, from just getting records from, the stoplight cameras all the way to your toll tags, to everything about you can be easily consolidated now. And now when we add, gun transfers from NICS checks all the way to that big database that they're not supposed to have, like the ATF's not supposed to have any long-term record keeping when it comes to gun owners, but we all know that when an FFL goes out of business, they're supposed to hand over all those 4473s, and they're all in some big warehouse somewhere. All that's going to get digitized, all of that's going to be consolidated, and it's all going to go into the same data banks that has everything else on you. So think about that. So the consolidation of power and the consolidation of enforcement and the ability to create regulation is only going to be streamlined, where they're going to be able to do it faster. I think in the short term, and what everyone's celebrating is because they hate the ATF, and I don't blame them. I mean, we all know they don't have a great track record. At least there was some type of separation between those two agencies. And as you guys know, that there's lots of incompetence in the federal government, or any level of government, that is. And so when you have two organizations that might not be talking to each other or might be engaged in some type of jurisdictional pissing contest, sometimes things are not going to be transferred across that boundary. And if we consolidate everything within the FBI, you get your moral victory of, yeah, get the ATF. But the ATF doesn't go away. They still process all the forms and all that kind of stuff and deal with the FFLs and deal with importation and have to sign off on forms. But now the enforcement mechanism of all these laws and regulations goes into a better funded, better trained, better organized, larger department. So in the long term, what do you think that really means? And I kind of think about, what Donald Trump has done. And in no way do I get upset with him, but I always blame him for getting us in the trouble we were in when it came to bump stocks, and then later the FRT triggers, and then pistol braces. Because for a long time, once the ATF kind of made their initial rulings, even if it was under Obama, they were like, a pistol brace is not a stock. Okay. But then once Trump said, ban bump stocks, find a way to do it. And they did. And then they realized, oh my gosh, the courts are going to uphold this. Then when the anti-gun administration came in under Joe Biden, then all of a sudden it's like, well, now we can reclassify anything to be anything. And that's the path we were going down to, probably where eventually they were going to say, well, a standard AR-15 is only a few steps away machining-wise from being a machine gun. Therefore, they're all machine guns. And now, everything's banned. They're going to come confiscate everything and so forth. We were going down that road. We were on that slippery slope. Luckily, Trump won. I believe in his heart he is pro-Second Amendment, or he does things that I think are better, or at least would stop them. But he opened that door, and that door can't be closed. The horse left that barn. So in the future, don't think that whether it's under the control of the ATF or the FBI, they're going to have these regulations again. But now you have the FBI, a better funded, well-oiled machine than the ATF ever was, now doing the same enforcement that the ATF was. So what do you think is going to happen when an anti-gun president gets in power? So I think that's something that many of the gun YouTuber, Rumble commentators are forgetting. We want these short-term victories where we want to get the ATF, how dare them, but the ATF agents aren't going anywhere. In fact, probably they're going to be more upset because now they're no longer ATF agents. They've been moved to immigration or to the FBI, but then once a new administration comes in, they'll be moved maybe to the FBI, but they'll be like, you were specializing in firearms, so we're going to give you this authority, but now you have more power and backing behind you because it's the FBI instead of the ATF. That's what I think. I actually think in the long term, this could be bad. And don't fool yourself. It's good now for the next 4 years. I mean, all of us I know are breathing a sigh of relief, okay? We're all sitting here and going, okay, Trump's president, okay? I don't think, it doesn't matter if Congress turns blue in 2 years. If they can pass all the anti-gun legislation they want, Trump will not sign it. And these agencies, while he's in charge and, Pam Bondi or whoever, Kash Patel is in there, they're not going to create more regulations to go against what are now law-abiding gun owners and firearms in general, or FFLs. But there's always an ebb and flow to politics. One day, he will not be president. And there is a back and forth. I mean, look at it. We have literally, it's not like we see 20, 30 years of single party control of the White House. We don't see that. I mean, think about it. We had Carter. I'm just going to go back to when I was born. Okay, I was born in the last year of the Carter administration. I think I was. Yeah, because Reagan took power in 81. I was born in 80. So you had a Democrat, you had Reagan, and then you had Bush. Okay, so you had 12 years of Republican. Then you had Clinton for 8, Bush for 8. So Democrat, Republican. You had Democrat again. Then you had Republican, then Democrat. But it's not like you see Republican, 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 Democrat, Republican, 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 or vice versa. So I expect within the next 4 to 8 years, whether Vance becomes president or there's another Republican, that momentum, it always shifts because that's just the way people think. We go along a certain path, inevitably something happens. There's always going to be an economic downturn or whatever. People are going to blame whatever administration is in power, whether it's their fault or not, and then they're going to want to go in a different direction. And the pendulum swings back and forth. So right now, we're all breathing a sigh of relief. The ATF agents are being reassigned. The power and the scope of what ATF is investigating and going after is being diminished, and it's going to be incorporated into the FBI. Woo! We're good for that. But we might not be. And what's going to happen if in 4 years you have a Gavin Newsom as president, or Kamala Harris, or whoever you can think of, and they're going to want to go in and be a liberal wrecking ball, kind of like what Trump is on the conservative side. I mean, I know personally a lot of things he's doing. Excuse me if I'm hiccuping. A lot of the things he's doing, we're all celebrating. We're all happy, right? We're like, finally, somebody on our side is fighting the good fight and doing things and what they said they were going to do when they campaigned. But all this is going to do is supercharge the momentum and the desire to do the same thing back in 4 years or 8 years or whatever. And can you imagine the executive orders a Democrat's going to sign in the first moments of their presidency, going against gun owners, what they're going to tell the FBI or whatever new FBI director there is, now that all of that firearms enforcement is under one roof, what they're going to do. So while everybody's celebrating, everyone thinks this is great, I think we have to think in the long term. And often when it comes to all these things gun related, people don't think in the long term. They just think in the moment. And I think it's bad for us all. So I'm curious what you guys think. When you heard the news and saw all of the other videos, were you celebrating and happy and woohoo, the ATF's losing power? And were you thinking about the future and going, wait a second, hold on a second. Wait, we're consolidating all this enforcement power in a better funded, better trained, more functional organization. How's that going to hurt us in the future? I'm just curious. Now, obviously, I wish we could repeal the NFA, repeal a lot of the Gun Control Act, repeal the Hughes Amendment, all that kind of stuff. But that's not what's happening, right? Everything's happening from an administration standpoint. And when somebody else gets in the White House, it can all be flipped. And that's it. So tell me what you think. Do you think this is going to hurt us in the long term? Is it going to help us in the long term? Is it not going to change things? I argue for the most part, nothing's going to change in the short term, except we're not going to get more regulations and laws passed. So everything's just going to kind of stay the same unless Congress repeals laws, which they never seem to do. But what do you think about the long-term implications of an anti-gun, very anti-gun president taking power and now having the consolidation of all of this in one branch where he doesn't have to worry about hiring an ATF director? Do you remember all the problems that the ATF has always had when it comes to a director? No, they could never get one confirmed. I mean, for like the past 25 years, they've only had a confirmed director for like 6 of those years, right? They always have acting directors because it's such a politically hot button agency. But it's going to be so much easier to get an FBI director. I mean, we have to have an FBI director, right? So now you're going to have a confirmed director overseeing the enforcement of all of these anti-gun laws and regulations that could be created. So anyway, that's just my thought on it. I'm sorry to kind of burst the bubble, but this is how I think. I'm the type of person that looks at the future. I call it webbing. I look at all possible solutions, and so many people in the gun world only think 3 days ahead. That's all they do. And that is why for a long time I have said on all of my channels, whenever I talk about anything political, the anti-gunners will always win. Because the anti-gunners play the long game. Pro-gunners play the short game. And that's it. And they're already thinking, wow, I mean, trust me, the Bloombergs, the Moms Demand Action, all that kind of stuff, all those groups, the Every Town for Gun Safety or whatever the anti-gun group is that you can think of, trust me, they're all, they might outwardly be going, oh no, the ATF is being dissolved. But secretly, the people that are the real movers and shakers, the thinkers in those organizations are going, once we get power, now we're going to have an even more effective way of enforcing our will with bypassing Congress and getting this stuff through. So That's my thoughts. And in the future, while in the short term, we're celebrating what Donald Trump is doing, in the long term, just like when it came to bump stocks, we might have our fists in the air and going, Trump, because he set something in motion that's going to consolidate that power and enforcement. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you watch to the end of this video, of course I have to have a word of the day, so if you want to use it in the comment section, I know you have a high tolerance of pain and can listen to me talk for a long period of time. So the word of the day is going to be, and I'm going to make it hard today, consolidate. Consolidate is the word of the day. So if you can use that word in some comment somehow, I know you're a true vault dweller, and as I said, can put up with me just talking off, just whatever comes out my mouth, essentially, just talking off the top of my head and sharing with you these ideas. So thank you for joining me here in the garage. As always, I think I'm going to try to produce more content like this. I really enjoy doing it, and hopefully you guys like to hear my takes. So, as always, thanks for watching.